What have you got to lose? Just post 3 times a week. From the trenches, personalization is key. Landing your dream sales job could be easier than you think. And in today's episode of the Sales Circle podcast, we're going to talk about that. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. My name is Rob Spence, an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, and of course the host here of the Sales Circle podcast. You should know by now that this podcast is designed for salespeople, for entrepreneurs, for business owners, for people who need to sell. Now, my argument will be that everyone in the world needs to sell. Everyone, each and every single one of us sells, right? And this week's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can land your dream, your ideal, your absolute sort of end game when it comes to landing your next sales job. Because let's face it, sales jobs can be quite lucrative. They can be. Sales jobs come with normally a high salary and or a high commission bonus and or other benefits and perks such as cars, mobile phones, such as, travel sometimes. My argument, right, and this is what I personally love about sales, is the fact that you can develop a career in sales and you can literally have a job for life. Of course, you may not work in that sort of industry sector or in that job forever. Sometimes, who wants that, right? But actually, sometimes when we do that kind of thing, we can then go off and sell anything. So no matter what happens to the market, no matter what trends come into play, what new products land, no matter what, suddenly is created, a salesperson, if they're good enough, can float and change and move from side to side. And of course, alongside that, your passions may change. You as a young whippersnapper may love high rocks. High rocks is the new thing along with paddle, right? And you may potentially, sell products or services relating to high rocks or gym or fitness. As you get older, your ideas, your passions may change, and you may suddenly get into music. And then lo and behold, your career can go into music sales if you so wish. And for me, that's why, career-wise, sales should be more appealing to others than sometimes it is. You literally have the power in your hand. Of course, with every good sales job comes some issues. There comes pressure, stress, targets, and everything else in between. But do you know what? If you do really damn good, there's a lot there to keep you going. And in today's episode of the Sales Circle podcast, we're going to talk about some ideas as to give you some tips on how you can land your dream sales job. Whether you are just trying to get into sales as we speak, or maybe you're in a sales job and you want to move and fluctuate. I'm going to share some market statistics. I'm going to share some real life examples from myself. I'm also going to share some stories about when I've hired salespeople as well. Just before we do go on to the main part of the episode, do us a favor. You know what I'm going to say. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, make sure you hit that follow button, hit the subscribe button over on YouTube. Make sure you're following us as well over on social media, and let's crack on. As I kind of alluded to earlier, for me, the role of a salesperson, or even but still the career of a salesperson, can take any path that you want. And I think, I'll make no secret about the fact that I think that's one of the most beautiful things about sales. You look at me in my career, I sold, technically through a variety of different outlets. I've sold everything from antiques and art to adult services to finance to furniture to garden furniture, right through to fine food, ingredients, to then now selling, B2B services, marketing, websites, and everything else in between. I think as a salesperson, you get the chance to move and flow. And whenever you are looking for a new sales job or a new sales role, especially in the early stages, you yourself have got to understand what you truly want to do. I do believe that good salespeople sell something that they believe in and are passionate about. I don't really believe in the fact that any good salesperson can sell anything. Of course, they may get some lucky wins, but I don't think it works out for the long time. I think whenever you sell anything, you've got to have a passion in what it is you're selling, and you've got to believe in what it is you're selling. So whenever you are looking around for what job, think about what product do you want to sell. I do think, again, that you should sell something that you're passionate about, maybe have some base knowledge about. For me personally, I think this is one thing I always like about my career. I know that I can fall back on pretty much any, sales job, give or take. That sounds arrogant. But one thing that I don't want to sell is cars. I don't know anything about cars. I don't care about cars, right? For me, cars get me from A to B. Literally, in my life, I'm now 35 years old, been driving since, 17, 18, whatever. I've owned 3 cars. A Peugeot 206 or whatever it was, a Ford Focus, and now a Tesla. I'm not one of these people that like know what cars are. Don't get me wrong, I've driven a whole array. When I was in the police, what did we have then? Skodas, so the Octavia, quite a nice car actually, the Octavia, the Fabias, I've driven courtesy cars, vans, and everything else in between. But for me, I'm not passionate about cars, so why would I go and try and sell something that I just have no passion for, no knowledge about? And that, relates into that industry. What industry excites you? Now, of course, we did a whole podcast episode not too long ago where we discussed the difference between B2B and B2C. So that's something you've got to take into consideration, whether you want to sell business to business or business to consumer. And of course, do you want those sales to be inbound or outbound? Are you going to be a hunter and gatherer, or are you going to be a bit more of a farmer? And of course, as well, like what pushes you from a money sense? Do you want the safety of a good salary with minimal commission, or would you rather take the risk and take a minimal salary but high commission? These are all things you've got to start to think about. And from there, the big thing that I always tell people, my biggest tip, and this is the one thing I want you to take away from today's podcast. As a salesperson looking for work, you've got to remember that in that instance, you are selling yourself. It's as simple as that. You are selling yourself. So think about how you are going to use your, persuasive techniques, your influence techniques, your marketing, your sales pitch to sell you. Now, for me, one of the best things any salesperson can do, and this is what I did to build my career, is to grow your personal brand. You are a product. You are a business. You've got to grow that entirely, both in digital platforms, but also wholly, within your own world. Okay. For me, whenever I'm looking to employ, salespeople, I do look for those that have some form of personal brand or experience or that little black book. And actually, when you look at salespeople, normally the best salespeople in the world and those that normally get a higher bit of bunts and a bit of higher money and kind of negotiate that are those with that little black book. We've heard that term, right? Those salespeople that have got a little black book full of personal contacts of whom are customers before. They can take that little black book, obviously, as long as there's no contractual agreements, into any other business and then go on and sell to them. The relationship's already there. That trust is already there. All they've got to do is just persuade them to jump ships. And you can only develop those things if you build and develop that personal brand. You've got to start to think of yourself as a business or a product or a service in yourself. When you do that, then all of a sudden, not only will you get headhunted more, you'll get more people reaching out to you, but lo and behold, also, you will also, when you do start to apply for jobs, you'll be able to kind of negotiate for higher pay brackets and be more lucrative and more attractive over another candidate. Back when I was selling fine food ingredients, that's exactly what I did. Now, full transparency, I didn't do it to start looking for the jobs. I didn't do it to start, trying to look elsewhere. I did it for me. I did it for potential plans for the future in the writing of my books. And I created a whole personal brand. And at the time, this was probably at the time of recording, potentially 10 years ago, give or take, 10 or 11 years ago. The main platform that we were using was Twitter, right? And I developed a whole personal brand on there to the point where I would walk into an event and I'd get recognized. And our company's AGM, my Twitter account was displayed as a thing of good things. I was like a forefront, a leader in showcasing what an individual employee could do from a personal branding point of view. Nowadays, every person within employment tend to have some form of personal brand. Estate agents have their own social media channels. Even now, the two of the reps of whom I used to work with, where I used to sell fine food ingredients, they've jumped ship. They've gone to another supplier. They now too have their own personal brands, their own personal Instagrams, where they're taking on board the strategies that I put into place 10 years ago. They're doing it differently because it's more content-led these days than thought-led. And, they're really pushing that. But that's exactly what I did. And lo and behold, I was getting promotion offers internally. I was getting headhunted. And I was able to kind of grow and develop my personal brand. Thus then developed my little black book. Thus then made me more appealing and more attractive. So, of course, I've spoken about Twitter there, but one of the biggest platforms, especially if you're selling B2B, or even if you are looking for any job, is, of course, LinkedIn. Now, some people hate LinkedIn. Many people love LinkedIn, right? But we know that if we develop and generate a, what's the word I'm looking for? A brand on LinkedIn and any other social media platform. I don't want us to neglect TikTok, Instagram, X, or Facebook, to be fair, or Pinterest, potentially. Your personal brand is what's going to stand you apart. So make sure that you've got those accounts set up. Make sure your headshot is beautiful. Make sure that cover image is great. Make sure your bio is full of keywords and is stringent. Make sure you're going on every single day to connect, to engage, right? To grow your connections and to post really relevant, thought-provoking content. Make sure you get those recommendations from past colleagues or clients and always keep a check on your analytics. Of course, it adds to your workload, but lo and behold, me, a recruiter, guess what I'm going to do? One of the first things that I'm going to do, I'm going to be looking, when you apply for a job, I'm going to be looking on your LinkedIn, on all your social media platforms. I will always favor those with a higher social media and digital marketing presence than anyone else because I can see the connections they have. I can see the work and the value they deliver. Now, of course, when it comes to content, make sure you're sharing experience, any tips about your industry, about your sector, maybe industry insights, maybe recent statistics. Of course, it's always very tempting when you work for a company to just hit that repost button. Let's focus on LinkedIn for a second. When they hit that repost when they see their company sharing an update. There's no point. The algorithm doesn't really show it up. Of course, if anyone does go on your feed, they'll see it. Reposting with thoughts is better. But do you know what? Actually, when we look at things, originality really comes into play. Just be your own author. Be your own writer. That will really shine upon high and above anything else. Now, I've got a statistic here for you. It says, according to LinkedIn, candidates with active LinkedIn profiles are 40% more likely to get hired. So there are some people here, and even I work with some people who don't want to be putting themselves on show. They don't want to be. They think it's quite egotistical. They think it's quite arrogant to have this personal brand, to have this almighty, look at me, this is what I do. The fact of the matter is, if you're not doing it, your competitor is, which means, remember, if we think of ourselves as selling yourself, when you are putting in a CV, right, you've got, let's just say, for argument's sake, 10 of the sales reps, and we know it's going to be more than that, right? They're going to look across all these LinkedIn people who are active on LinkedIn and those that aren't. Or is it 40% more likely to get hired with an active LinkedIn? And that means those other people in that room are doing that. So unfortunately, you've got to get over yourself. You've got to put that in the back of your mind. The biggest advice I'll ever give is it gets easier with time. Genuinely, it gets easier with time. When I started the business, although I understood personal branding, although I knew it was massive, it was always the last thing on my mind. I had other clients to look after, I had other things to do. And I still, I guess, to some degree had that, does it sound arrogant, cocky to be talking like this, to be putting this content out? But since then, I've made it a daily routine. It's one of the first things I do in the morning. I put on my to-do list every single day. I feel weird if I don't post every single day. But actually, that's what our business has grown from. That's what my personal brand has grown from. That's how we acquire many, many clients. So once again, even if you're listening to this or watching this as an employee, what have you got to lose? Just post 3 times a week, right? It takes 5 minutes a post, give or take, maybe a bit more. Don't ChatGPT it. Do not ChatGPT it. Make sure it's personal, okay? And just post. What's the worst that could happen? So we've talked a little bit about, what have we talked about? Personal branding, which of course, I class that as the net. We're opening the net. We're giving people ammunition to come and find us. But you as a salesperson, you've got to get out there and make the sale. You've got to do that outreach. Now, for me, the psychologies and the theories behind job outreach is is not too dissimilar to selling, right? If you just send a random copy and pasted CV to 100 people, right, with no thought, do you think you're going to stand out from the crowd? Absolutely not. You're a salesperson. You've got to sell yourself. So what are you going to do to get the attention of the prospect, right? What are you going to do to get past any gatekeeper? What are you going to do to overcome any objections? And what are you going to do to negotiate better pay? It's as simple as that. You know, you look at every job that's ever applied for, you're looking at, you know, what? Maybe I should have got some statistics for this. 40 or 50, you know, applicants per job minimum, probably more. So what are you going to do to stand out? So, of course, a couple of top tips. Of course, make sure your CV and cover letter is tailored exactly to the company that you're applying for, right? Personalization is key. If we're not personalizing our CV or cover letter, there's no point in sending it, right? Beyond that, what can we do to make that CV stand out? Are we just emailing a CV that's a generic template taken from Canva? It could work, it might not. But not many people are sending CVs via handwritten letter or, you know, by post these days, are they? Do you think that stands out? Of course it does. Especially, you know, we had a young lad working for us once. His CV was printed on lovely paper stock. It was very lovely paper stock, a lovely envelope, came in, hand delivered it. That stood out from the crowd for me. And at the time we weren't hiring. In the second we needed someone, boom, guess who got the phone call? Not the dozens of other people that had emailed in their CV. That person that stood out from the crowd. So make sure, although yes, your CV is tailored, what can you do to stand it out from the crowd? And of course, once again, think about the benefits, not the features. You are a salesperson. So what metrics can you use? What social proof can you use? What statistics, what results can you use? You know, I increased revenue by 35%, closed 500K of, you know, sales and pipeline quarterly, whatever, right? What can you do within your CV and cover letter to once again really, really stand out from the crowd and sell the benefits as to why they need to speak to you as opposed to anyone else that's looking, right? And don't just rely on the job boards. Of course, there's some great job boards out there, but just reach out directly to sales directors or hiring managers via email. LinkedIn is always good as well. Once again, you are selling yourself. Again, I will argue, if you know a dream company you want to work for, make it known to them that you want to work for them. They may not have an opportunity then, but they will do. And again, once they do have that opportunity, do you think they're going to be calling back those that have just sent in a generic, you know, CV, a generic cover letter that's all copy and pasted? Or do you think they're going to speak to the people that have shown a genuine interest in working for them, that have shown a genuine want? For me, that's the biggest tip. It's no different to sales. If we take that scattergun approach, yes, you'll get a job, but you won't get the job. Just before we do go on, don't forget that this podcast is proudly partnered with Monday.com CRM. If you are looking for a fantastic CRM system that's easy to use, quite cost effective, cloud-based with loads of great AI and automation tools, then Monday.com CRM is for you. Whether you're a business owner just starting out and you're looking for a way to track your clients, track your deals and track your sales, or maybe you're using something that's clunky, funky and just not so good, you're looking for a new solution, then once again, Monday.com CRM could just be the solution for you. As a thank you for watching or listening to Sales Circle podcast, there is a link in the show notes or the video description below. Make sure you click on that, get yourself signed up. You'll get some free access and some other little goodies as well, and check it out for yourself. So we've developed our personal brand. We have applied, and now it's time for the interview. Now, of course, again, and I'll beat the drum about this, you salespeople, if there's one thing you should be able to sell in the world, it should be yourself. So you know what I'm going to say when it comes to the interview. Do you think you should be late? No. Do you think you should be smartly dressed? Absolutely. Do you think you should, talk too much? Absolutely not. Again, you are, I want you to really get this in your mind, you're selling yourself. Turn yourself into that product, that service, that business, and sell yourself, okay? If you go in and over talk, you're not going to develop that relationship, that rapport, that trust, and you're going to bore the interviewer to death. As well, my biggest recommendation is know everything you can about the company. You would be surprised how many people I interview these days, and I ask them, So tell me about Paragon. What do you know about us as a company? And woof, the panic on their face. They've not even I get it. Back in the day, right? I'm talking 20, 30 years ago, right? Maybe more. Trying to research a company was quite hard, right? It was quite, you had to, of course there was publications, of course there was ways to do it. But nowadays we've got the internet. It's a 2-minute job. Know everything you can about the company and be really nailed on about your performance. Make sure you share your success stories. Take in letters of recommendation from customers, clients, colleagues, peers, your bosses. Be ready to explain your sales pipeline, your results, and everything else in between. Glassdoor, which is a fantastic sort of, I don't think it's a jobs board, but you kind of rate and review where you've worked. They did a study that said candidates who ask insightful questions are 30% more likely to receive job offers. So again, if you're looking to get your next sales job, think of yourself like a salesperson. Okay? Yeah, think of yourself as a salesperson and sell yourself. Selling yourself for you as a salesperson should be so easy. And that for me is the biggest test as to whether someone will or will not hire you. So we're moving on to the listeners' questions part of the podcast. Every week we ask you to send in your questions, those burning questions about sales, whether you're dealing with a prospect that just won't answer your calls, whether you're struggling getting a new job, whatever it is. If it's sales, business or marketing based, email in. You can email me at thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com. You can contact me anywhere on social media. Of course, LinkedIn is a great one. Or just leave a comment on any platform where you digest this information, and one of myself or one of the team will pick up on it. And we're going to go into today's questions. This one is from Ellis. Ellis says, I don't have any formal sales experience. How can I stand out? So yeah, great question. Think about what skills can you transfer? Think about the skills that we look out for as salespeople. So communication, customer service, problem solving, persuasion, well, a little bit. Everyone's got that kind of experience somewhere, whether it is retail, whether it's back at school, college, sports teams as well. Show that you're already selling. Whenever I look at a CV, I'm not normally looking out for those with a highly polished, sales career. Although they're good, sometimes I am just looking out for problem solving, persuasion, customer service, and everything else. So, Ellis, I think that was, make sure you, when you complete that, your CV or cover letter really highlight that experience. So this question here is from Jade. She says, should I go for a high commission role or a base salary role? It's a personal preference. It's a personal choice, okay? And I think there's always, it's not only personal choice, but I think you've just got to get a vibe and a feel in terms of the business you'll be going on to work for. And, potentially the product or service that you're going to sell. If you're new to sales and, it's your first sales role or early on, then look, sometimes a good base salary is fantastic, right? Because it offers you some security. It allows you to test the market, allows you to understand your skill set and build your personal brand and build your little black book. Of course, if your, risk to reward ratio is massively high and you're confident in what you're selling, you're confident in the product, confident in the service, confident in the business, then of course, if you want to go for a high commission, then go for it. Sometimes, 9 times out of 10, you will earn more money from taking on commission-only roles, because once again, it's just about that risk reward, but once again, it depends on, your appetite for that, So I think, was it Jade? Sorry. Yeah, Jade. I think it's a real hard one to answer. Okay, real hard one to answer. Of course, the sweet spot is always quite a nice blend of the two. Some form of good salary and commission is always good. Maybe if you're young with no sort of prerequisites with mortgage, kids, that kind of thing, one would argue a commission-only role is good because you can afford to take that risk and probably earn some really good money, right? But once again, Jay, there's many, many moving parts to it. So just think about what you want. There's no wrong or right answer. It's entirely your choice. Final one is from Leo. Says, how do I follow up after the interview without sounding desperate? So listen, it's the same as sales, right? 24, 48 hours, maybe 72 hours is a good starting point. Remember, we're not just following up, we are asking our prospect, right? You can see how I kind of put this in my mind. We are following up with our prospect to say, listen, have you got everything you need from me at this stage? Just want to make sure I answered every question well enough for you. Do you need any more information from me? Do you need to see more of my sales statistics or anything else in between? If we call it, once again, it's the same with sales. If we're calling up, emailing, hi, I'm just following up, boring and could potentially look desperate. But if you're looking to help and support, then actually that could show to your prospective company that you want to represent that you understand the sales process. You understand that you need to follow up. So actually, Leo, I think, it shows good professionalism, shows that you know what you're talking about. But again, as always with following up, as long as you do it in the right manner. Thanks so much for those questions. We're going to move on to our book recommendation of the week. Now, we're probably going to change what the book recommendation was going to be because I think we've spoken about some stuff and there's a book that I really want to quickly find. So stay tuned and we'll talk about our book recommendation of the week. So I've had a little change around with this week's book recommendation of the week. I was going to recommend a certain book and that will just be recommended next week. This book, again, similar to, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is probably one of the first books I read that really switched things on. Now, I'll be honest, the book is tiny. I thought the book would be much bigger when I first ordered it. But do you know what? Considering its size, it's, I may have, to be fair, this could be just like a little review. I don't know, but I'm going to completely embarrass myself here, aren't I? But even this book that I've got here that I read, it's tiny, but it was so impactful. It helped me, like I say, to change my mindset from being an employee, from being just someone that works, to thinking of myself as a business. And that book, or this book is Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. Now, we will put a link in the show notes or video description below. I'm going to be really embarrassed if actually this is just a minuscule review and there's a much thicker book. But even this that I read, honestly, it changed my life. Allow me to read the blurb. In Managing Oneself, Peter Drucker explains how to create your career path by knowing when to seize opportunities and when to change course. This influential Harvard Business Review article helps you unlock your full potential by discovering your strengths, recognizing how you best work with others, and identifying the work environments that are right for you. You can see now why I thought this would be a good book recommendation for this week's episode. For me, like I say, this changed my whole mindset between, I'm just an employee, I'm just a team member, I'm a business owner. I need to manage myself like I'm self-employed, like I am a business owner, and my career will follow suit. And I can assure you that's exactly what happened when I bought and digested this book. So if you're looking for a great book to help you with your sales career, and I'm sure you are, then make sure you pick up Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. The link to pick up your copy will be in the show notes below. And that about wraps us up for today's episode of the Sales Circle podcast. Listen, there's loads to digest from here, and I want to make clear, I'm not a recruiter. I do not work in recruitment, but what I have done is I've applied for jobs. I've applied for sales jobs. I've not got sales jobs before, believe it or not. But I also hire salespeople. I hire sales jobs as well. And hopefully in this episode, we've talked about the top tips that I've learned from the trenches, right? Remember, be really specific, make yourself visible online, build that personal brand, build that little black book. Treat the job search no different to a sales process, right? Prospect well, follow up well, objection handle well, negotiate well, and everything else in between. Always follow up with the value. We should be following up, but no different to the sales process. We shouldn't be, hey, just checking in, just following up. What value can we give? And just be yourself. Look, be yourself. Authenticity, beats polish every time. And sometimes it's better to walk away from opportunities instead of faking it, because then when those barriers come down, lo and behold, you get caught out. And we've had it, we've had salespeople join and they've just not been cut out for it. And unfortunately, we've had to let them go. So it's a waste of time for them, and it's 100% a waste of time for us. I do really appreciate your time checking into the Sales Circle podcast. As a reminder, these come out every single Thursday without fail. We have been, mass recording. The production team, the editing team have been incredible behind the scenes, getting this all set up and sorted. So I cannot thank them enough for sitting through these, and of course yourself for watching or listening as well. As a reminder, they are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and of course YouTube. Just do us a favor, follow us and subscribe us wherever you can. And why not share it with a colleague, with a client, with a supplier that you think this will bring great value to as well. I've been Rob Spence, and until next time, all the best. And that's it for another episode of the Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button, join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.